My name is Lindsay Jost, and I am one of the practicing clinicians at the MaxWell Clinic. And I would like to as well open up a really big warm welcome to everybody who is taking a little time out of your evenings to spend it with me. And any of us here at the MaxWell Clinic, as we do these educational webinars, it is a joy and a delight to have the honor to get to share in time and space with you. And especially as time as one of our most valuable assets and resources. So we thank you, I thank you, and I can't wait to spend the next 30 minutes with you. So welcome again to everybody in our MaxWell Clinic family and community and beyond. If you're watching this, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, any time point that you're able to sneak away and listen to an exciting talk. We're going to talk about all things stress, which in this day and age is a hot topic, as you all are very aware. So before we dive in and get started, I'm going to do a little housekeeping things. We're going to share some slides and talk about what our next 30 minutes is going to look like together. So what I'm going to talk to you about this evening is the miracle of stress. Now, miracle, you might say to yourself, that's a little different. I know, don't worry, we're going to get into it. Seems a little unconventional. It is, because we're going to take everything that you think you know about stress, confirm that you do probably know some things about stress, and then change and flip the script a little bit and hopefully give you some things to take away that you can use in your everyday life to start to have a different experience of how it feels for you. So a couple of the housekeeping things I kind of mentioned. I'll be the host this evening and I have you guys on mute, but if you have a question, please type your question in the Q&A box below. And at the end, before we wrap up, I'll try to make sure I answer all of the questions that you have available. In the event that the internet goes down, because the world stops when the internet goes down these days, we'll switch to a hotspot, so stay on for 5 or 10 minutes, give me some time to hop off, get my internet connection changed over, and then come back and dive right back in. So our journey together, what we're going to go through this evening is the great reframe, as I have decided to coin it. What that means is we're going to talk about what we know about stress, what may surprise you about stress, a little concept I like to call living in the both and some action steps for you to take away, as I mentioned, and go out about into your day. So let's go ahead and dive in. The great reframe. So everybody's emails are all full today with these huge clickbait things of, you know, reduce your stress, or how stress is harming you, or the more stress you have, the faster you're going to die, and all these alert, alarm, stress is negative everywhere. It's plastered in our social media. It's plastered in our emails. These are things you know. I'm not going to cause you more stress by bringing up the word, which I think it's really funny, because if you say it, you kind of immediately feel this sort of self-judgment and how am I handling that and how do I feel? Interesting to start observing. So the no negative things, these are things that are really out in the open. We know it causes fatigue. We know stress causes insomnia. We know anxiety and depression and headaches and muscle pain, over and under eating, weight gain, weight loss, chronic disease, high blood pressure, cardiovascular issues, low libido and sex drive. Nobody wants that. Shorter lifespan. Okay, all right, we've got all that down. That is almost common knowledge at this point. And it's everywhere in our media. And it's really a common conversation that we have. And there are good parts to the negativity of stress. It's really good to highlight those things. I don't want to make that seem trite and that that's not important. It's really good for us to know how it can negatively impact our body so we can have that awareness. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. What we're talking about tonight are the things that you may not quite think about when you think about stress, and perhaps some of the things that stress is actually doing to work for you and not against you. So, some underemphasized positive aspects of stress. Again, you might say to yourself, Lindsay, how is this possible? I know, it's It is, I promise you. So let's talk about how stress helps us. So stress as a natural body response is what gets us motivated. It gets us to wake up in the morning, to get up and go, to be productive and engaged in the world and the community. Whenever you wake up during the day, I'm going to go ahead and venture to believe that a part of that motivation to do so is by some expectation for your next event, whether that's getting to the job that you're employed at that is providing for your family and yourself and home and shelter, whether that is caring for your beautiful children and making sure that they're well and safe and off into the world. There is some level of participation that needs to get you to go out and engage in your life. So stress in that way is a potent motivator, but it doesn't always have to be in the extreme form that we think of it, where it's chronic and overactive, but just as a general motivation to get up and going. Stress is our friend there. It's great. It is a driver of innovation and evolution because it is the mother, father, sister, brother of creativity and creative solutions. Sometimes when we're under stress, that's the time that we have divine insight where we go, that light bulb goes off and we think to ourselves, oh, I never thought about that. Maybe because this inefficient system was working this way, we can do it this way and actually create really big change for the better. A lot of our most prized innovations and possessions and things we use every day were created and birthed out of the foundation and bed that we are calling stress. So in that way, it pushes societies forward. Stress motivates us to care for others and our families and communities by seeing other human need and being driven to care for humans in need. We often are then motivated to go above and beyond what we normally would. There's always that age-old joke, of if you're ill on the side of the street, but you see a child getting run over by a car, a mother can go and lift the body of the car up to get her child out. Again, I'm not talking about those necessarily, those kinds of extremes, but just recognizing how it is actually woven into our everyday in a way that's generated tribe and community and really close-knit connection. Stress is our emotion of protection. We heard about fight or flight. Okay, so a stressor happens and I'm either got my gloves up or I'm running away because my primal nature is saying, flee, I can't handle it. So staying in that state for a really long period of time, yeah, that leads to chronic disease, and that's not necessarily our goal. But having that emotion of protection and thinking it whenever it comes up in our bodies and our systems and going, oh, I'm trying to protect myself. What's going on here? That's actually a good thing. We are physiologically built to survive and thrive. And so sometimes if we acknowledge that that's coming up for ourselves, we can actually take it, shift it, acknowledge it. There's a lot we can learn from that. We're going to talk about that, don't worry. It is our body's honing and signaling tool for communication. So there's two camps to that. Emotionally, stress, there's a stress emotion, so energy and motion, that signals to us, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling anxiety, or just tears. Emotion is coming forward. That is your body's way of communicating that, hey, I have some emotion here. Listen to me. I've got something that I'm trying to tell you. There's the physical experience of stress as a communication tool. That can come in the form of an elevated heart rate, sweaty palms. All of a sudden you're like, getting a little nervous. Again, that is your body's way of talking to you. We, in our current understanding and experience, use our mouths to make sounds that we have determined different sounds have different meaning. Humans are the meaning makers. And here's the beautiful thing about that. We can make different meanings out of whatever we want. We're that powerful. So if I make a noise that says, Lindsay, that's my name, and it has a certain amount of meaning and identity to it. Stress, same thing. Any sort of emotion that comes forward, same thing. Our bodies don't always have the cognitive ability to inadvertently say a word so that you can signal and know, really blanket and clear, hey, I need you to pay attention to me. I've got some stuff going on and we need to talk about it. Doesn't happen that way. So stress is one of the ways that we communicate with ourselves, as far as our body signaling to us that we need to take a little moment, or this is great and exciting, let's keep charging forward. Because again, when stress comes, it doesn't always mean it's bad. Sometimes that can mean that, hey, I'm motivated, I want to keep running and keep going. There's that both and that I'll get to here in a minute. Interesting thing about stress too, a moderate amount of stress can actually signal some chemicals in your body. They're called interleukins. They can boost a short-term immune response that actually is really protective. Most of the time, what you hear about is the long-term effects of that over time. So chronic stress decreases your immune system. But really short-term bursts of an alert boosts it for a second. So there's that protective mechanism we were talking about that's actually really helpful. And stress improves focus in the short term and productivity. Everybody knows when that deadline's coming or has had this experience in life. It's like, for instance, I have a webinar about stress. I better put all the content together so I can make sure that it is rich, robust, and useful, engaging, and something that people can walk away with and say, that was worth my time. There's a little bit element of stress there. Is it necessarily a bad thing that motivated me to create this content for you this evening so that we can share in this time together? Not at all. So it's all about how you're perceiving it. Brief stressful events can actually cause the stem cells in your brain to proliferate into new nerve cells. Again, brief stressful events, not long term. So we're focusing on the gift of that burst moment and taking advantage of it. So those are kind of the general list of just some scratching the surface ways that stress actually positively impacts your ability to function in the world, the way that you go about your day, and how it is interwoven into everything you do. Really, really interesting stuff whenever we start to think about it a little bit differently. So we know the negative effects. We've talked about how chronic stress can negatively impact us. We now know how we can reframe it, or at least we can start to see, all right, okay, stress is in my everyday. I got it. Okay. So what's the goal? Well, the goal is to be able to have a life where you have both and. So max and well. Yes, this is a nod to the name of our clinic. A lot of people will ask, who's Dr. Maxwell? And Dr. Hazy will always say, it's you, the patient. So the story is how he named MaxWell Clinic it was named after the concepts of yoga, the inhale and the exhale. So the goal is to enjoy a life where you're able to inhale and max, so stress, and you're able to exhale and well, relax. So you've got your sympathetic drive of go, 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 and then you've got your parasympathetic of rest and digest. So here at the MaxWell Clinic, that's part of what we're trying to help accomplish, is to find that sweet spot where we don't say, hey, let's just always be in this enlightened state and never have stressors, because that's just not going to happen, unfortunately, or fortunately, because again, sometimes stress can be fun. So I think it's really important to redefine your expectations of life. When you have that sort of, we've gotten into this place where enlightenment is the goal, and enlightenment is beautiful. It's the lightening of burdens. It's releasing things that are heavy. That's great. But not all of us in the current society structure can sit and meditate for 20 hours a day. It's just not realistic. It's beautiful practice, and there are times and seasons to do that. But how do we equip you with the tools to be able to function in the world as it is today, and also be able to enjoy your life better and go from the ebbs and flow, the maxing and the welling, the inhaling and the exhaling, so that you have the maximum quality of life possible? Enlightenment can be a little bit of a negative feedback loop, because whenever, or at least the pressure to do so, because if you think to yourself, I'm feeling stressed, I should be above this, I should be past this already, why am I getting bogged down again? Because I have all these tasks. This person at work said this again, and it really, the shoulds, the shaming, the blaming, all of these things. I need to be more advanced. I've done all this counseling and all this work. This is still coming back. Well, stress is going to come back. It's going to come in and go out. Emotions are meant to be waves that come through and teach us something when they're here, and then they go ahead and leave as well. The more we resist something, there's always that age-old principle, the more we resist it persists, and it's just going to stick around. So releasing that pressure of thinking I should be somewhere else than I am. So begin where you are. If you have a period of time where you observe and you say, man, I'm really maxing, I'm really stressed, then how do you bring that well in there? And how do you have a little bit more grace and ease with just observing the flow? Daring to engage in the world differently, which is a really big deal. So what this last year in 2020 has given us opportunity for a lot of people is a little bit more internal dialogue, let's just say. And we have a lot of conversations with ourselves, don't we? I will raise my hand and say, at least I know I do. I can spend a whole lot of time up there and a lot of conversations and a lot of decisions and emotional reactions that can occur just in our minds. So because of all this extra introspection, we have this opportunity to take that and start to really observe. And how are we, as we're now kind of starting to maybe engage in the world, how are we going to, within the current constructs of having to participate in our jobs and our families and all of the roles and structures, do it in a way where we have a little bit more ease? So do you laugh often? How much are you laughing? Are you having fun? Are you playing? You know, is play and fun only for the young? And what is the belief around that? Because we really encourage kids to be kids, but we don't model that behavior for them. And I'm not saying go play on a jungle gym all day, because, you know, if you are a tax accountant and it's tax day, that'd probably be really challenging to justify. I understand that. But at the same time, what kind of conversation and belief subset do we have about the things we're doing in our everyday lives? As you're sending that email, are you realizing that you're impacting another human life, no matter what role you're playing in the community and society at large? Are you having some fun with that? Is there room for creativity? These are really interesting questions to start to observe, especially as you're in that, you know, push and pull and rut and routine. How happy are you? Are you being silly and joking with your coworkers and friends and family members? Or is it just kind of, you know, tunnel vision and check the next thing off the box? We have really big impact, and all of the energy that we bring into what we do ripples out to everybody that we are in contact with, every single person. We are that powerful, and it's really important to remember. So living in the both and, the max and the well. Viewing stress as an opportunity. It is our greatest teacher. And the best thing is that it's our greatest teacher, and within, it's always with us. It is a never-ending gift for curiosity and growth, because what I promise you is it's not going anywhere. There is not a magic anti-stress pill. Okay, there are some pharmaceutical drugs that might help mitigate some of your responses, but they tend to be blunting. And our goal long-term is not to have people rely on those types of interventions, so that they can really feel all their emotions, because feeling your emotions is one of also the greatest gifts. So having that growth mindset, change and flow is our guide. Moments of contrast and frustration are an opportunity for resilience and expansion. Always giving yourself that spark of curiosity to just question and open up a dialogue internally about how things might be able to better deepen and shift your relationship with life long term. While at the same time not spending too much time in overanalyzation. It's a really fine line. However, these are the kind of just soft places to land that are really helpful for you whenever you're starting to evaluate, how do I view stress? When I think about it, does it make me stressed? Am I occupying my days running away from that emotion? Am I occupying my days actively engaging? You know, how am I running away from the experience of life? How am I not fully showing up? Really interesting when you start to just open and honestly ask those questions. That makes you, or not makes you, but gives you the opportunities to start deepening into relationship with yourself and your body, listening to yourself more, because the thing is that the greatest tool for deep healing that we have at our clinic and beyond is you. It is your body. It is the signals that it's giving you. It its innate ability to heal and thrive and function in a miraculous way that is beyond what any science and conventional studies could possibly quantify. Those are the miracles. And it comes in these types of questions. It comes in this sort of ease about expanding into a life that could have a little bit more play and fun, and realize, how is that intimate relationship with myself and all the messages my body is telling me the most sacred and powerful tool that I have? Do I believe I'm going to be well? Do I believe that I can shift my experience with the way I view world and the stressors that come in? How can stress be a word that when I hear it, I think, yes, that's fun. I am engaged and excited to see where this is going to take me. Whether it's going to be a journey that's going to spiral me into another level of freedom, or it's going to take me down a road that shows me something I wasn't aware about myself or others, or allows me to deepen into relationship with those that I'm closest to. Stress is telling us a lot. Always asking that question, what is it showing me? Really interesting, especially when we start to view it as a really, really positive thing. So, transformation and action steps that you can take with you from all the things we just talked about and all the ways in which the miracle of stress is creating you, your life, everybody's around you, and how it is the creative juice of the world and as it functions. So the first action step is to listen. I have 7 for you. The first one is listen. That's it. Really simple. Listen, and listen deeply. Listen to what stressors are coming up for you. Listen to how you respond to different things, to those voices and the questions in your head. Just listen. Then, action step number 2 is to listen with curiosity and play. Because as you'll notice when you start to deepen into this work, when you just listen, sometimes there's some filters there. There's some filters there with some judgments. That's human. It is very natural to do. So the next step is to listen with curiosity and play. That's really interesting that made me feel that way. Hello, old friend. I remember this emotion, and I know that this continues to come up for me. That's really interesting. Okay, how do I play with doing something different? And if the thought of that makes me feel really nervous and anxious and uncertain, then why? What then? So if I do this, what am I most afraid of? And you'll find sometimes that it might surprise you, the answers that come forward. We'll leave that open-ended because I think you'll be really interested to hear where that leads. Number 3, so we're listening with curiosity and play. We're going to ask loving questions. So after we listen, then we say to ourselves, oh, well, why do I feel that way? And do that in a way where you're really caring for yourself. A lot of times we are given messages and shown examples of how to really lovingly care for others and not necessarily how to do that for ourselves. So this is the opportunity to do that. Number 4, laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously. Everybody is so serious these days, and especially when it comes to our own emotions. There is nothing better that can move and transmute and transform energy and any stuckness and intensity like laughter. So do it more often and anytime you can, even if it's just at yourself. We are sometimes really funny. Number 5, be open to new possibilities. So you've listened with curiosity and play. You've laughed at yourself. Now you got to be open, because if you're not open to what else could come through, then you might miss out on a really insightful spark of divine knowledge and a little pull or intuition that you've never had before that could lead you down an entirely different path. Number 6, invite wisdom. So you're open to new possibilities. I'm here, I'm ready, I'm open, let's see what happens. And then invite in that wisdom that might come forward. Say, okay, and I welcome what's going to come, and bounce this off of other people. Wisdom is the creativity in our modern world. We are so connected via technology as we're having in this moment, There's not as much opportunity for physical contact, and where you can really kind of read other people in real time and their body language and get all the nonverbal sensations that occur in the human experience that are just beautiful. So that sort of seeking wisdom and asking deep people questions and what do you think and how do you feel? And, I had this stressor come up and kind of listened to it. And then I asked a few more questions and here's what I got from that. And man, I really laughed at myself because that was really intense. And I took that to a whole different level. And now I'm open, have you had an experience with that? And what is your wisdom? And see how that can create a leveling and really connecting with people in a whole different way than maybe you've ever experienced before. I personally recommend doing it with people, grocery store checkout individuals, or if you're pumping your gas. The more that we can invite these types of conversations in our day-to-day lives, the more love and compassion that will ripple out. And it's really, really profound. Step number 7 is to take inspired action. So after you've invited in that wisdom and you were open to all those possibilities, take action on what comes through. So sometimes there is this misconception that if I'm going to manifest $1 million by sitting in my home and believing that I'm manifesting $1 million. Hey, if that works, kudos. I am not taking that away at all. However, sometimes to get to that, we have to take action. We have to move and motivate forward. And all of the ideas and I don't know why I feel pulled to call that person or write this down or create this thing leads us into the next direction to actually vision and innovate and move forward to obtain the dreams and grow towards what we want to be in life. So you have to take action on the things that come forward for you and not necessarily be passive in life. And part of that is to change our relationships with the things that we find to be the most debilitating, be it stress or otherwise. So in conclusion, as you guys probably assumed I would get here, because the moral of the story is that stress is your friend. It really is. It is your friend. It is your teacher. It is a transient emotion. It is with you all the time. And however you decide to perceive it and empower yourself and how you shift your relationship with it could change not only your world, but the world of anybody else you get to be in contact with. So I will open it up for any questions and answers. If anybody has any, I'll give it just a minute or two. I don't see any. So with that, I hope that you all took and gleaned a little something, and maybe at least something to think about as you go off into your evenings and the rest of your days, whatever time you're listening to this. On behalf of myself and everybody at the MaxWell Clinic, thank you again for your participation, your heart, your wisdom, your presence, your inspiration to us all, and for being a part of this community. It is an honor and a privilege to serve each and every one of you. And I look forward to hopefully being able to engage with you around the clinic. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.